tonight we could talk about, like, you could ask me questions about seminary. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who have asked me about seminary and who, especially women who are interested in serving in a pastoral role and what that means for them and their family. And they've asked me more about the program, especially a lot of people at church. So I thought I could share a little bit about my journey, but you could also ask me questions that you might have. Ooh, actually, I don't want this garlic sauce. I'm trying to at least do a little bit better.
All right. Well, obviously, I know you're in seminary, but I guess, like, I don't know exactly, like, what exactly is it that you're studying in seminary?
Okay, so my program is a 2-in-1. So the first part of my program, I already graduated and completed the program. So that was a master's in religious education. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch that you can choose from. But I chose that one because I love to teach, and a lot of pastoral work is teaching. So I thought it was, like, important to kind of, like, mold those skills a little bit more, especially from people who are doing it. And then the second part of my program is the actual divinity program. And so it uses some of the same classes, but it's more focused on the tools and resources you'll need to be a minister. So I'm doing, like, Greek and Hebrew, which are not part of the other program. It's part of the divinity program. They're teaching you how to read the Bible appropriately, how, to explore specific topics like sanctification and those types of topics. And then my focus is pastoral counseling, so I'm also taking counseling classes. So when I graduate, back up. In the state of North Carolina, you can be a pastoral counselor if you have a certain degree plus a certain amount of hours of clinical study, plus you pass, like, a test. It's like a national board test for pastoral counselors. And then after that, you're allowed to open up your private practice. And a lot of people do that for credibility, for further training. It also allows you to bill to insurance. So you're basically a therapist, but you're a Christian therapist.
Right. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm studying the Bible, but also how to help with spiritual formation in the church. And then also how to counsel people from a biblical perspective.
And what do you want to do with that?
The interesting thing is that, oh my gosh, this cheeseburger is so good. When I first, responded to the call of seminary, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that's what God was calling me to do. That's a whole other story in and of itself, but I literally had no idea. I was just pursuing the regular divinity program. I wasn't doing the religious education or the counseling because I didn't know. But the great thing about a good seminary program, and I do Liberty. So Liberty is my university because it's very affordable. Mm-hmm. And it's very credible, and the professors are awesome. So it's changed a lot. I would say it wasn't always that way, but it's changed a lot in the last, 5 or 6 years. But
yeah, it was different when I went there.
Yeah, because they have different leadership now.
Yeah.
But my program has always been great. Like, I love my program. But yeah, that's something different. What was the question you asked me? Why did I choose it? Okay, so I didn't know what I wanted to study, but I knew that God was calling me to seminary, but I didn't know how he was going to use me because, I work in ministry, but in, admin, and I love that job, and I feel like I'm really good at that job, and I feel like that job has a, big impact. So I was confused when I was praying about it, and people were coming to me saying, hey, I think God's telling me that you should go to seminary. Different people from different parts of my life that don't know each other. And so I was like, okay, so I just need to say yes to this and just trust that God's going to figure it out. And it has been the rockiest journey, like that I never expected. But through the classes, it really like opened my eyes to what I wanted to do with it and what God's calling me to do with it. So I took a couple classes and really figured out that I'm like skilled in teaching. So I decided to go the teaching route. But then through the teaching route, I was required to do an internship. And I did an internship at my church. And through that internship, I realized that I wanted to do counseling. And that was an internship at our local church. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of a journey. But I feel like I'm on the right path and more opportunities to counsel have come up. So.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like God calls us to do something that doesn't make sense to us. Or that we're just like already kind of set against. Mm-hmm. But then.
Like filming this podcast? Yeah.
Yeah, but then God ends up using it in unexpected ways. And it's like, if I just listen and have been obedient from the get-go, I mean, it wouldn't have had to been such like a song and dance to like get here,
Yeah, and like growing up, like I never wanted to be a pastor. I never thought I would be a pastor. And until a couple weeks ago, I didn't consider myself a pastor. God has really done a lot of restoration and healing in me because I'm a pastor's kid. So with that came pros and cons, but I told myself and I told God that that's something that I'm just like not interested in. And when you tell God to do something, he's like, okay, I'm going to heal you and, have restoration and you're going to be a witness for this. And I feel like that's what he's doing.
Yeah, God redeems all things to himself, so.
Yeah, but growing up, I didn't know what seminary was because my father didn't go to seminary. He was a pastor, but he didn't go to seminary because you don't have to go to seminary to be a pastor.
Yeah, you don't.
Not all churches require it. Yeah. Now that I have gone through seminary, I think that they should require it, and I think they should pay for their pastors to go through it because it will revolutionize their churches and it will mitigate harm, in my opinion. I have learned so much. And I went in so prideful and came out realizing I know nothing. And it's humbled me a lot in a good way.
I mean, that's saying a lot from you because you've, like, not just grown up in the church, but, I mean,
I worked in ministry my entire life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You've been working in this field for...
Oh, God broke that pride down, for sure.
Decades.
Yeah, I completely deconstructed and reconstructed my faith. And here's the thing, the first time I heard about seminary was in college. So I went to this Christian college called Spring Arbor. It's in Michigan. Really fantastic college. Loved my experience there. Only transferred because it was getting too expensive and I just couldn't afford it and I couldn't ask my mom to continue sacrificing the way that she was to help pay for it. So I decided to transfer to a state school that was cheaper. That actually paid me to go there. They gave me a ton of scholarships and a little bit of student loans, and it was really nice. But my friend Dan, he was in my little core group, which is when you first go to college, a lot of Christian schools. Your Christian school did this too, where they match you with a bunch of other freshmen, and then they pair you with an upperclassman, and then that's your group. And you do things together. So that way when you start college, you automatically have community and friends and stuff.
Yeah, they did do that for sure.
Well, I always looked up to my friend Dan. We were about the same age, but he was just so wise and stoic. One of those people that just has really valuable insight, and who kind of his personality is kind of like yours, where he's super introverted and shy, but when he speaks, it's impactful, and you listen because he hardly ever talks. So, at least that was my experience with him. But he was telling me how he feels called, well, not just me, our whole group, how he was called to like be a pastor and how he was kind of scared to go to seminary because um, some of his, or one of his friends went and like completely rejected Christianity through his seminary experience. And so we were just encouraging him. And that was the first time I had ever heard of seminary.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my 20s. I was like, yeah, I was 20 when I first heard about it. And so I was like, wow, that's not something that that's like super interesting that they have that, but that's like not something I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I felt a little like, oh, like maybe that's what you should be doing. But I just like didn't really realize what that was. And then later on that year, I was actually baptized by my campus pastor in a lake, which was cool. I think it was one of the Great Lakes. Or like maybe a river off of a lake. Or a river off of a Great Lake into another lake. It's Michigan, so that kind of stuff is like everywhere.
Right.
But anyways, so I kind of started to develop that fear. Like, I heard of that fear from him, and then when I heard that, I was like, wow, one of his friends that, like, was a pastor, I think he was a pastor, went to seminary and, like, lost his faith. Like, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. It was such a fear. Like, an unnecessary fear. But also, like, it's healthy. It's, like, a healthy fear to have. Because then you know, like, what's at stake. And important things that you're called to do always have a price. And so, finally, we had been married, this is probably like 10 years later. We had been married for a couple of years. I was living in Washington, and I came to you, and I was like, babe, I think I'm supposed to go to seminary, but I have no idea for what, and I really don't want to do it.
Yeah, because it was all the way back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I told you, I was like, I don't want to do it. And you're like, you need to listen to God and do it. But it's like, it's extra money, it's extra time. We had just had a baby. She was only like 1.5. Because I've been in seminary for like years now. Because I took time off.
Yeah.
So I started it, and it was really hard, and exactly what I feared would happen happened. And it happened for both of us.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we went through some rough times.
Yeah. And so I was like, this is so crazy. I can't believe that I believed this. This is so crazy. Like, but all of that time, I still, like, in my heart and in my brain knew God existed and that I was actively rebelling. And then a bunch of other stuff happened, which we won't get into, but we came back to Christianity, and then I continued seminary. And now I'm in my last 2 semesters. I finish at the end of the summer. My ordination is going to take a little bit longer. I still have several classes for that, but it's pretty crazy. The journey of that.
It is crazy.